Fast, easy, expensive. Woodworking products that sell. Let's go. Today I'm taking another step towards launching my high-end woodworking business. This is baked walnut from previous project. Thin strips are giving me the vibe of complication, so they will have to wait. Bigger chunks of baked walnut. I could use those for coasters with copper wire inlay. This is not baked walnut, and I will not be baking these cause holes and knots were already filled with epoxy. I intended to make live edge candle holders, but most of the live edge will have to go. I see several ways to improve my dust hood invention, but I promised myself not to spend time on unnecessary inventions. Just batching cute woodworking products that sell, hopefully for a lot of money. I already spent too much time upgrading my garage. It's time to fill up the piggy bank and grow my high-end woodworking business. Since I don't have a jointer, I will use a sled and my planer. Hot glue will hold short boards in place and act as a shim for the corners that are lifted. Scraping it off is not much fun. I could think of a jack, the idea is there, but nah, stop it. Just make bespoke wooden items for sale. I will, however, continue improving no snipe solution because this directly affects the quality of my products. Spoiler alert! I found these parts useless in my planer. After sealing the wood, I was thinking about next steps. Oh no, not again. In my defense, this isn't an invention. I just need the thing to make grooves easier. Handmade mass production in my high-end woodworking business. Some of the live edge I'll be able to keep. Soft pad on the beast and it does pretty well. Well, I guess I don't always learn from my own mistakes. If you know, you know. Wow, look at that. The void was so deep. Remember I marked the corners and said nothing? Well, that's because I am reshaping it into a nicer shape. Trapezoid. Oh, let me double check.
Trapezoid.
Keeping all of those for sure. I might need them. Because I like to make my own life complicated, each piece is different and requires different spacing for candles and inlays. I had to do some math. At least the grain looks nice. I wouldn't want to cut it in the middle of that knot. Back to my non-invention. Here is how it works. I set guides for inlays and make them with a fancy micro chisel. I heard inlays are good for a high-end woodworking business. That is definitely an improvement from last time. But there was a problem. Chisel was not fond of swiping through the aluminum bar. After some more brain heating, I added spacers to it. And that will do for now. Should a laser be my next investment in my business? Maybe CNC? Not sure yet. Here is an infinite loop of events. You seal the voids, they turn white, you sand, get to deeper voids, fill them again, they turn white, you're trying to get it out, you sand, eventually giving up and using a black Sharpie. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. I used black Sharpie on walnut. Using epoxy instead of glue this time. After struggling with keeping copper wires in place, I finally made a nice sandwich. Handmade mass production evolves as a part of my high-end woodworking business. Getting tape off was a nightmare. Besides that, wire was uneven, and I didn't want to hand sand for days. So I continued gently with orbital sander and was trying to push the wires down. Had to take it all off, clean the grooves and glue down a thicker wire. That way, wire stays in place and no need to scrape off the tape. Since I planned to add big bevels, I needed to make some legs. Mistake here was sanding. I already made this mistake before, but decided to repeat it again. Why not set up the rotor table the same way as table saw? Pushing sled back and forth is much more comfortable than from side to side. I knew I'm gonna have troubles with drilling holes for candles. I tried slower speeds, adding more glue on top of copper wires. Tried hand drill. Nothing was working. After repairs, I marked all the holes with my bit and removed wire by hand. Next step was to figure out what works best for sanding inside the holes. And I tried it all. Nothing made it look good enough. So eventually I poured some epoxy in each hole off camera. Cutting huge bevels with my improvised clamp. Clamp broke though, and I had to use the boring solution. Note that my dust collection hood can be on its side. Live edge candle holders needed some extra care, as expected in a high-end woodworking business. I got myself a finishing sander, thinking it might help cause belt sander is way too aggressive. But no, pigtails were everywhere, so I had no choice but to use a hand sander. This one comes with dust collection, and it's awesome.
Come here, take a seat.
I I started with 14 potential candle holders. One got disqualified from the start. 2 more were damaged with hand drilling. I hope the rest will survive. When I sanded the legs, they became slightly uneven and I had to fit each one individually. After that, I figured out the right angle to cut the mat, because if you remember, I work with trapezoid. Another attempt to use belt sander. I need to find a way to slow it down. Well, more hand sanding. Since things move during glue-ups, I simply decided to use a brick instead of a clamp. Surprisingly, it didn't crash anything and I didn't drop it on my foot. That was a win. Finishing process is the most satisfying one, right? Wrong. It is the hardest part. I applied wood conditioner, then stain, yes, stain on walnut, then did minor sanding for the little things that I missed, then stain again, and finally finish. I used this finish before, but something was way off this time. Little bumps, circles, an absolute terrible look. It is not a high-end woodworking business. From there, I decided to look for a perfect finish and lint-free applicators. I tried it all. None of these were lint-free. Self-leveling was not self-leveling. Clear was not clear. Some of them were simply not durable even though they looked good. I hate those legs. Am I interested in making another batch of these candle holders? No, even if I find the perfect finish. After some really bad experiments, I had to put aside 3 more candle holders. I'm establishing refinish later or never pile. I didn't want to use a hard wax oil because I wanted to seal the copper and prevent it from tarnishing. But I realized that I can use it on those live edge holders that don't have copper, and also bottoms with legs. The tops with copper will have lacquer on them. Keep in mind that if you don't spray enough, you are gonna see an orange peel. If you do spray enough, it will most likely have drips. And if you sand lacquer, it loses its strength. Hours of polishing was not bringing good results. So the solution I thought of was to spray a good amount on tops, flip it, sand the drips off, and apply hard wax oil on the bottoms. Because if you spray the bottoms, legs are gonna have cracks, and also drips on the top will appear. Turns out, some stains are made from dust and mud. It gets stuck in the grain, and then when you apply finish, you basically smear it around. So, my first finish was fine. It's just me not buffing off the stain well enough. After spraying good amount of lacquer, I was pretty optimistic that this is the way. But spraying too much can lead to other issues, where the surface looks like a sagging skin. The rest didn't pass the nail swipe test. This is a failed hobby and not a high-end woodworking business. Handmade mass production was shut down.